Video lecture is concerned with some additional information about virtual subnetworks and awesome. Um, if you open up the model that we just built, a subnetwork called Clerk, uh, you recall we had an initialization path or entry point that basically did nothing except initialize the instance of the subnetwork. It turns out actually the first time the subnetwork is called, it will be initialized, whether you have a separate initialization step or not. The reason you might want to initialize it, if you look in the control statements that are particular to each instance of the subnetwork, we can open up a limit statement for the virtual subnetwork. In a virtual subnetwork, you can have a separate set of global variables plus a separate set of attributes for each entity that's in the instance of the virtual subnetwork. So every time you have a new instance, a new set of global variables is created and attributes for each entity may be created. Um, if you if you don't have any of these additional variable requirements, then the initialization becomes much easier. You don't have to initialize any of the global variables. And so for this model that we built, we really don't need this initialization phase. So I'm going to delete that initialize statement, and I'll just save it as a different subnetwork name. We'll call it Clerk 4, for example. Okay, so Clerk 4 will just have the service entry point and process the queue and server combination. In the basic network, again, we don't need all of these components where we create an instance of the subnetwork and we enter at the initialize point. The first time the subnetwork is called with a new instance, it will be initialized automatically. So this isn't required in the case of this model. If you have global variables that are particular to an instance, then you may want to include the initialize function. So we can delete that path and we're left with just the basic selection of Clerk 1 or Clerk 2 with different service times. So I'll save that also. We'll call this net4 just to give it a unique name and save the original model. And I'll create a new scenario. We'll call this no init, no initialize. And I'll use net4 as the network. And for the subnetwork, I'll use Clerk 4. Okay, and for the control model, we'll just keep the same control model. So let's see, set current. Okay, and then we can translate these networks and run it again, and you'll see that you get pretty much the same results. There may be some variation due to randomness, but here we go with scenario no initialization. We have the overall time in the system statistics. Then we have observed statistics for Clerk 2, which has the large range. Clerk 2 has the longer service time. And then Clerk 1 has a shorter service time. So I hope that clarifies some of the additional option with virtual subnetworks. Take a look at your text and you'll see a list of variables that are created each time you have a new instance in the virtual subnetwork. Remember that the subnetwork is defined by this file, but each time you call it with a different instance name, a new network will be created and the activities inside that network will be executed.